Both types of sports with Schoode and Tor. Football discussion on the internet.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Crazy overbite guy. It's a new character I am debuting. Welcome, everybody, to both types of sports football discussion on the internet. I am your host of the most, the Shoodster, broadcasting live from Oakton Falls. Hello, friendos. Thank you so much for being a part of the program today. You can find us on iTunes. You can find us on Spotify. It is free to subscribe. And I've got great news, awesome news. I'm now getting paid for you downloading the show. So if you haven't subscribed on iTunes and Spotify yet, or wherever you get your podcasts and left a review, please do that, you taking motherfuckers. We're not getting paid a lot, but we're finally, somebody clicked go on the revenue button because the guy that I was paying to do it never clicked it. I won't say who it is, but he'll be joining us in about 10 minutes on the show. Greasy, grimy motherfucker. So yeah, if you're watching on YouTube, go on over, subscribe. Actually, here's the fucking link. Check the bottom of the screen. You can subscribe on iTunes and Spotify for free. It's tinyurl/BTOS Apple for iTunes and tinyurl BTOS/Spotty for Spotify. Oh my God, do we have a shitload of shit to get through today. Super chats get pressed and up on the screen. If you are listening, you can watch live on YouTube whenever we're doing both types of sports for FREE. We, of course, are presented by Dream Stay Getaways, as we are for the entire season. When you're booking your Florida theme park vacation, avoid the fees, you silly goose. Book these awesome houses directly. You can go right now and see them yourself, dreamstaygetaways.us. They're in resorts right there in Florida. So you're going to be staying in a big, beautiful house with the video games, with pools, with the beautiful movie screening rooms, with all the bedrooms. Great stuff. You got kids, it's perfect. And you're staying on a resort. So if you want to save money, if you got that Disney Fast Pass bullshit, Universal Studios, you want to go down and ride the Velocicoaster, you can take a day off, save some Skrilla, and just enjoy the amenities that are offered in the communities that Dream Stay Getaways books their houses in. Go to the website, avoid the Airbnb fees, avoid the Verbo fees, all that garbage. Dreamstaygetaways.us. Both types of sports presented by them for the entire season. A couple of things. First of all, I am a hypocrite. I think most of you that have listened to me for any amount of time already know that. Tweeted this out earlier from @BothTypesSports. Pleased to be following on X and IG. Not enough of you do. We got a lot of spam bots following us over there. I didn't ask for them. I've never paid for a fucking like or a follow. I sit and I wallow in my obscurity. I got no problem with it. But if you'd like to follow us and keep up with show, we live tweet games and shit like that. Head on over there. It is @BothTypesSports. This is a tweet from that. And if you're listening and not watching, it says, not even going to mention the Jets on the show, but wow. And it is a picture of Aaron Rodgers sitting in between and applauding Joe Douglas and Robert Saleh. Good old Bob Saleh. Remember him? Sounds like a Seinfeld character. I think he does something for the Packers now. He's like an offensive assistant for Matt LaFleur, which is strange. There can be only one. Highlander-like. They're all gone. Except for A-Rod, Aaron Rodgers, who looks like somebody's stepfather in this photo that we're looking at. He certainly looks thin. He looks emaciated. All of these guys that get all fucking crazy about their health tend to look more unhealthy than they did before they cut out the sugar and the white flour. Speaking of which, this has nothing to do with football. We'll talk about Joe Douglas getting fired today when Tor joined us. But I started a little early today because I got a food take, and that has nothing to do with professional football. So I wanted to get it out real quick. E-Rock is a nice guy, but he has horrific food takes. As a matter of fact, I would go as far to say that it is my opinion, and I gathered this through my broadcasting career, where I broadcast on the West Coast for a year, and then I spent a majority of my career on the East Coast. People on the East Coast don't know what the fuck they're talking about when it comes to fast food. They really don't have a fucking clue. First of all, we don't have access to all of the great fast food establishments. And I'm talking about the Northeast southeastern quadrant of this country. I'm not talking about the South. The South, you can see, just check the populaces for all the cities and states in the South. They're exploding. Everyone's fleeing the North. I don't want to get political. It just is what it fucking is. It is better South, and it is better South and, out West. That is, you get too far West, you get into Crazyville. But for the most part, it's better. And one of the main reasons that is there's way more fast food, right? You have Whataburger. You have Jack in the Box. You've got In-N-Out Burger. You've got Del Taco. You got Rubio's. You got Culver's. Go down the list. When you talk about what we have here in the Washington, D.C. area, very limited. Very limited. Lots of Wendy's, lots of Subway. Of course, we have McDonald's, but we don't have a Hardee's within easy access. We're just now getting places like Cookout, my neck of the woods. Sonic is still creeping. People have really bad fast food takes. My old boss, a lot of the junkies would love to go out to a Super Bowl, then shit all over In-N-Out Burger when they come back. Oh, it's just, I don't understand what all the hype is. Well, the hype is it's really good, and the people that work there seem to be glad they're there, which doesn't exist around this neck of the woods. You stumble across a random Chick-fil-A, you'll find some kids in there that can put on the brave face. But you go to In-N-Out Burger, it's a horse of a different color, and it's perfect every time. It's an institution, but people love coming back with that spicy take. Oh, In-N-Out Burger's overrated. Is it really? We'll never go there again. Please, never go there again. Every time I go to In-N-Out Burger, I have a fantastic time, and I'd love for there not to be a line, so go fuck your mother. The other thing that just happened was I was talking to my buddy, fan of radio, who can be garrulous at times, but he was telling me about a horrific food take that Mr. Eric Nagel had, Eat to the Rock, and he's got bad food takes, real bad food takes. He doesn't just have a fat guy's food take. He has a childish fat guy's food take, and that's dangerous. He was shitting all over Raising Cane's, and I've seen this now. I've seen this now popping up online. It is in vogue to shit on Raising Cane's, which will not pass. You haven't been there, or you've been there once and you've judged the entire corporation on that. Raising Cane's is fantastic. I'd rather have it than not. Now, you want to sit there and burn your fucking valuable time on this planet comparing Zaxby's to Raising Cane's. You choose to use your life the way that you want to. I will not burn calories with that. I would treat Zaxby's and Raising Cane's the same way that I treat Sheetz and Wawa, and that is there are angelic lighting and wings and a choir of fucking. Every time I see either one of those logos as I'm driving down the highway as an option when I exit, if I see a Raising Cane's or a Zaxby's, I fall to my knees and say it's not a Wendy's, it's not a Chipotle, it's not a Subway. I'm happy. E-Rock's got terrible food takes. Raising Cane's is great, and I don't like the fact that it's become in style now to criticize them. I don't know why, but I've encountered it before. I've certainly encountered it with In-N-Out Burger. More chicken finger places, please. Let's get more chicken finger places out there. And if you're Arby's, figure out a way to spread the word on your roast beef. You don't need a burger. Stay in your lane. You don't need a burger. Every place has a burger. I can get a burger anywhere. Do a better job of marketing what you do well, and that is the beef and cheddar, which in my mind is the top 5 fast food item on any fucking menu. So be the best at that rather than the 5th best cheeseburger option. Now, I'm going to bring Tor on. He's going to look yellow and weird and oily. He's got a really terrible lighting setup. It only gets worse every week. I don't know what's going on with him, but I am glad to see him. I do like talking football with him. I don't know what the condition of the bouffant. We'll have to see. All right. It's
I like Bojangles.
I love Bojangles, but that is a fast food, a fried chicken establishment. I'm talking specifically about the chicken strip offerings out there. And I think there's only 2, right? Am I wrong? Zaxby's and Raising Cane?
I've caught hell for saying that people that like Raising Cane's just like the sauce at Raising Cane's, because I think Zaxby's has I think Zaxby's has the better fried chicken strip than the actual tender from Cane's.
Tor, I know Don and Mike was before your time. Let me ask you something. What do you care? Like, what does it matter? Do you think that if you got rid of a Raising Cane's, a Zaxby's is going to just teleport there the next weekend? Like, why can't we live in harmony? You have your preference, but we'd be grateful that there's both 2 solid chicken strip fast food franchises.
I think it's better than having 0 for sure. But I am tired of people trying to put me on to Cane's and its glory, and they just like sauce after seeing the other resume that they put out there with their palates. So
you're in New Jersey. You're going to have the most annoying food takes on earth. By the way, can I ask you a question?
Please.
Is everybody up there as racist as they are on everywhere else when it comes to Tommy DeVito? I got to ask you, because let me ask you something, Tor. Have you heard anybody else called anything as derogatory as Tony Cutlets or Tommy Cutlets or Tommy Gabagool? Like, I love stereotypes. I love making jokes about stereotypes. I'm not offended by any of them. But it is fucking bananas to me that I have been watching mainstream milquetoast sports talk radio shows all fucking week, just completely stereotype this guy and do the voices and play the music and hey, Paisan, and show his fucking crazy ass handler that he fired with the fedora on the field. It is wild for me the double standard they have for that particular player where they wouldn't do it about any other player's nationality. I just wonder if you're in the middle of it, the eye of the hurricane up there in Jersey. Is that going on up there right now?
It's the same people. I haven't seen much Tommy DeVito hooting and hollering in the streets as many would think that was going on. The parade hasn't come down my street yet. But it's the same people that laugh with their teeth out at anything that Jason Kelce has said over the last year. That think that it's a really funny move to go with the Italian quarterback and go all in. He's a bad quarterback, but because his name is Tommy DeVito, and they think that maybe he's somehow related to Danny DeVito, that he's a funny man. No, he's a football player. He's a quarterback. That's the situation, and it's really the most unfunny people that are at the very tippity top trying to make all these funny jokes right now.
I don't even the people are trying to make some sort of edgy argument. They're like the Jets, not the Jets, the Giants. They leapfrogged the other shitty quarterback they have, so this is just a desperate play to get people to come out to the Meadowlands. Yeah, there's two things at play here. One, they need to lose. They need to lose. They need to improve their draft position. And two, what are you going to buy tickets for in late December to go to the Meadowlands? If you can put the funny, goofy guy in over, the first round draft pick bust, and you might get 20 or 30 paisans to buy sweet tickets because of it. Why in the fuck should that be held against him? Like Daniel Jones, that experiment is over. Now, if your argument is Brian Daboll, we need to figure out if he should be the coach moving forward, because I've heard a couple of people that I think are pretty smart, Tor, say that he might not be getting fired at the end of the year because they really like him and they think that he won a playoff game with Daniel Jones, and that's worth something. So if you think that guy's coaching for his job, don't you want to give him the best quarterback possible to go out there and try to win? That's the only thing that doesn't make sense for me on the Giants' perspective.
His last 2 years aren't worth dick. They're some of the worst football that I've been able to see. At some point, it's time to really look at it and say, we're going to keep on doing this rebuild thing, and that means ground level up. All I've seen with the Dable-led Giants is massive training camp fights and illy prepared teams in the season. He can go. I would be very shocked if they say we're going to stick it out with you and the way that you've been able to rally the crew and field a good 21 other players on the field, and it was just Daniel Jones's fault. The way that they've been losing and how bad they have been, it's a terrible team top to bottom. I cannot foresee him being on that Giants team.
I got no problem with both of the New Jersey-based teams struggling right now. It actually warms the cockles. I tweeted this out earlier, Gigantor. Not even going to mention the Jets today on the show, but wow, I find that I can't stick to that. I want to talk about the Monday night game. I want to talk about the Steelers beating the Ravens. I certainly want to talk about the Buffalo Bills beating the Kansas City Chiefs. If you would like to cathartically dispel some of that heinous shit you must have brewing inside you, I see your little sig pic there about one of the most embarrassing performances I've seen an NFL team put forth, especially one that has a winning record and designs on, a division that's just kind of been laid in front of them. If you need to get some of that off your chest for your boys as well, of course, you're more than welcome. But today, we find out that Joe Douglas will no longer be part of the experiment. 42 days after Woody Johnson fired the coach, he fires the general manager. They are 3-8. They are going nowhere fast. You would assume that this means that the grand experiment, the Aaron Rodgers experiment, regardless of whether or not he wants to continue playing, it don't matter a hill of beans. They're going to move on with a brand new administration. I've never heard of firing a general manager like this. And I know some people have brought up that maybe the owner is going to go back overseas now that Trump is the president and become the ambassador again, and we need to button everything up. But he doesn't become president until next year. Like, there doesn't seem to be much rhyme or reason here. Does this appease the fans that this guy's gone? They have some draft picks that won, rookies of the year on both sides of the ball here for this team. This is indescribably maybe the most Jets move of all of the Jets moves that have been made in this season.
Woody Johnson up for the running for the sneaky dickhead of the year, because Jerry Jones has been stealing so much of the spotlight. Firing a GM mid-season is really unbelievable. And maybe that's, you want to get ahead of the search for a new GM before you get on a search for the new upcoming head coach, before you get on a search for the new quarterback you're going to have to draft, because you have an old dog back there that needs to be put down behind the woodshed. So unfortunately, you got a lot of searching to do, and to do it mid-season is definitely a move that they felt like they needed to make. But it's always a clown show, and as soon as you thought you were out of the weeds with the Jets being a clown show because the adults in the room and Aaron Rodgers is here, it just gets worse and worse. And he every week his legacy gets worse for me. Aaron Rodgers continues to play awful. They lost to the Colts with Anthony Richardson coming back off the bench and let him look like Cam Newton in 2014. It is a bad team. It's time for him to hang it up. And it's going to make, I don't know. I don't even want to put a projection on when I think they're going to have a fighting shot again. 5 years? Maybe is that long? 10? I don't know. I don't know.
If they hit with the head coach and the quarterback, they can do it immediately, right? Like we've seen that in Washington. Washington was just as big of a gong show, if not worse, under Ron Rivera, blowing draft picks and off the field stuff and name changes. I mean, technically, you could say it was worse. And then they got presumably I want to say this. I don't know that they have. I think Cliff Kingsbury is still kind of a clown. Like some of that play calling, I don't know. I think Jaden might be good enough. We'll see. To obfuscate a lot of the fucking crazy that's still going on in Washington in this game, this couple of games skid. And don't be surprised, Tor. I know this sounds like fucking bitter sour grapes, but Dallas is coming to town. They're completely vulnerable. This is a game that Washington loses for the past 25 years when we finally have the upper hand, and they're double-digit favorites. There's going to be because the Cowboy fans that live in this area, they don't get to see them every week. So it ain't going to be like the Cowboy fans that are there with aluminum falling on their heads. They're going to show up just to troll and be an asshole. I digress. Here's the question I had. Aaron Rodgers is not going to be there, right? He's going to be I think he's going to be 41 this year, so he would be 42 in the next season, I think. Aaron Rodgers right now, puffed up, give me Nathaniel Hackett, fire the head coach, whatever you think of him, right? Mm-hmm. He ain't worth that much, but he is 1 year removed from an Achilles injury. He's 1 year removed from this thing that we know takes a year just physically to recover from. What does cucked, humble, motivated Aaron Rodgers, even in his diminished state, you're telling me someone won't give him a Russell Wilson deal? You're telling me that the San Francisco 49ers won't come in and say, instead of giving Brock Purdy $40 million a year, let's give Aaron Rodgers the veteran minimum and let him have a shot with this fucking, with a returning Brandon Ayuk and whatever else they have in that moment. And we'll go Hail Mary. I think the people, if he wants to play, the people that are shoveling dirt over him getting another opportunity, excuse me, might have been starting to shovel a little bit prematurely.
I find it hard to think that an NFL team would want to put up with an Aaron Rodgers situation and those antics. He's had the worst body language of any quarterback in the NFL this year, worse than taking yourself out of the game for a play because you're winded, because you can't throw a ball out of bounds.
You think?
And every time they pan to him on the sidelines, he looks like he's depressed. It looks like he's on whatever medication that Othman was on or is on, and probably double dosage of that. He
continues to be on.
Yeah. He reminds me of the depressed Othello. And
he really does.
That's not an NFL. That's not a quarterback. That is not a quarterback. And plus, if I'm an NFL team, it's never going to be good enough for me if I'm just bringing in Aaron Rodgers. Look what happened with the Jets. He needed Lazard. He needed Devontae Adams. He got Lazard. He got Devontae Adams. Nothing happened. We're clearing our pocketbooks for a guy that's going to come in fired up, I guess. But then what happens? Our whole roster is going to get turned over, and now we're going to be in a worse place chemistry wise. I don't know if NFL teams are willing to forsake all of that just for having a 42-year-old Aaron Rodgers.
Okay, but then why did Joe Douglas get fired? Because he's playing ball, right? Like, it's, hey, clear the decks. We've got to make Aaron Rodgers comfortable. What did they do? They went out there and did everything I mean, Devontae Adams, he's following orders at that point, right? So why are you firing him? Because you can't fire Aaron Rodgers, I would assume. Like, why aren't we waiting until the end of the season? What is that guy? Fashanu, the tackle that they drafted, he's been playing well. I mean, Sauce Gardner, Garrett Wilson, he's responsible for those guys, right? Like,
yeah, Will McDonald, he's responsible for the real talent, the real young talent on the team. He's made picks. He was a sacrificial lamb because Woody Johnson can't fire himself, as he was the one that made the big made the big push, and there had to be another scapegoat. We already fired the head coach 4 or 5 weeks ago, so I guess someone else had to fall on the chopping block. I don't agree with the move.
Are you saying that you believe that if Saleh was still with the team, because this is just a sacrificial lamb, and unfortunately you've already killed one sacrificial lamb and you only had one left in the freezer?
Yeah, unfortunately. I saw a very funny tweet of Nathaniel Hackett claiming to be hiding out in Aaron Rodgers' personal bathroom when the calls were being made, so he couldn't be found. So yeah, I think if I don't think that there's been 2 head coaches fired in a season before mid-season, and I don't know if the Jets were ready to make that big decision to do that.
If you do it to satiate the fans, there are still, what is there, 7 games left? Like, what's going to happen in 3 weeks when it's worse? What's going to happen in 4 weeks when it's worse? Like, this has exacerbated all of that. Like, if you want to have that catharsis and bust the zit open, like, wait until, okay, the day the season ends, everyone's gone. Like, that's when you can have your relief. This accomplished, unless behind the scenes tour something gets leaked out where Joe Douglas spurged out. You know what I mean? He kirked out about some move or came in and told the owner like what the quarterback is. Like, something like that, to me, for an owner like that, could potentially happen. And maybe we just don't have that information yet. Largemouth asks, thank you for watching, and thank you even more for the super chat. We do accept super chats on both types of sports. As limited as our choices are, we do have Roy Rogers, which doesn't exist in the West. Love me some Roys. I would agree, Largemouth asks, except Roy Rogers can't get their head out of their ass. They can't figure out where to open fast food restaurants in meaningful places. They constantly go out of business. Like, I just don't understand the way they do their business. And the one thing they were really known for in my childhood was the Fry holster, where it came in a gun holster, and now they're PC, so they just write Fry holster on a sleeve of fries like everybody else has. So while I love Roy's, it ain't enough. Tor, you just traveled out west. We both traveled out west a lot. You have no idea the fast food you're missing out on a regular basis living on the East Coast until you get west of the Mississippi.
The quality margin is higher across the board than it is on the East Coast. Well, I might have my favorites on the East Coast, Roy Rogers being one of them. That Roy Largemouth ass with a great shout there. I don't know if there's a fast food chain out west that I love more than Roy Rogers, but their floor is higher than the East Coast's floor when it comes to the general quality you're getting when you're pulling up at a West Coast fast food chain, and that's just how it goes.
And Fixin's Bar, one of the reasons why Fuddruckers is so missed by me personally. I did find out there's still a Fuddruckers open in Ashburn, Virginia. I found that out this week, and I plan on making my my pilgrimage there. This is from Steve Palazzo. Winning percentage as a Jets starting quarterback: Zach Wilson 0.364, Sam Darnold 0.342, Aaron Rodgers 0.273. So a worse winning percentage. I don't think anybody would make the argument those 2 other guys are better than Aaron Rodgers. But let me ask you something, Tor. I, for many years, went on DC radio, and I said, it is not Steve Spurrier's fault that the Washington Redskins are a dog water franchise and that they didn't install a strong general manager to tell him, no, Shane Matthews isn't your starting quarterback. No, you're not going to sign Rydell Anthony and Jacquez Green, and you're not going to do all these crazy fucking things. What they should have done is say, sure, you're the head coach, But you just worry about the offense. You dial up the offense, worry about the receivers and the quarterback, play 18 holes of golf a day. Here's a hardo at fucking DC that's going to run the X's and O's. Like, here's a general manager that is going to, here are the ingredients to work with, chef, and please go out there and do your best. Like, I think there is a path where Steve Spurrier could have killed it, where Steve Spurrier could have been one of these offensive geniuses that pushes the fucking paradigm, shifts it for everybody. But he went to the worst place on earth. If Rodgers didn't sign with a place, or was he, I forget, he was traded? He was traded. If he didn't end up in a place that could just be completely manipulated and pledge fealty to him and cave into his insanity, I do think he could have played well this year. Like, you put him with Mike McDaniel and the Dolphins in that offense with those pieces, bro, he's throwing for 5,000 yards. Do we agree on that?
Certain of it. The landing of the Jets is continuously the dumbest possible move. If I was Shedeur Sanders and Deion Sanders, that is a destination that I make a call and say, I'm not going there. Where's the track record of success? It's, you know what? Sure, maybe the media exposure may be solid, but it's not worth it. I would rather go to Miami. I'd rather go to Tampa. Go somewhere that doesn't generationally stink, and you might have a shot. All you need is a shot, and you can't go to these uber-cursed franchises and think you can make it work. Now, maybe they were just paying Aaron Rodgers the most, and that's what mattered to him, but God, legacy-wise, you did nothing in New York. You made a big fuss the last 2 years in Green Bay, and now we're looking at just a shell of a former all-time great quarterback.
Yeah, but Favre went back. Rodgers is good. The people that want to act like, this doesn't look great. But the people that want to act like if Aaron Rodgers is willing to go back and put on a Packers hat and stand on the 50-yard line of Lambeau, he's going into the Ring of Honor and he's going to the Hall of Fame, and that's all there is to it. So it looks bad now, but he's a fucking weirdo dude, and he's been a weirdo dude. He's just 42 now. All right, you mentioned him. What is it? Speak the devil's name and they shall appear. And that type of shit. The Dallas Cowboys are exhibits 1, 2, and 3 in this year's NFL season, where the way that their owner conducts business, the way that he goes down and makes it all about himself, win, lose, or draw after a game, the nature of how large that stadium is, the fact that the Jake Paul fight was there on, like, you make your giant pile of money, it doesn't matter how terrible your fucking team is. It's a very difficult
disaster. And you know what? It's crazy in my mind. All this is happening because the Redskins drafted a good quarterback. So all of their unbelievable.
I think, is Devin McCourty the guy that goes on with Florio? I think it is. He made a really good point today. He said, why, when you are assessing what helps your team and what doesn't, right? Jerry Jones, I almost pulled the quote of him saying disrespect and not disrespect over and over and over again in the press conference after the game, where they get blowed the fuck out by the Texans. Go find it for yourself. It's a horrible edit and it sounds terrible, so I didn't want to play it on the show. But this guy, when they lose embarrassingly, immediately heads down to the scrum. Everyone surrounds him, and then he says something insane that causes the entire narrative to shift from the Bills beating the Chiefs, or what you said, Tor. The Jets should be the team that we're talking about being the goon squad right now, but we can't because the owner doesn't come down and stick his foot up his fucking ass in his mouth every single time they lose. It's got to be that Jerry Jones, because the assessment would be, it doesn't serve my team or what we're trying to do any purpose for me to go down and fuel this enormous fire that the media is going to now foment the rest of the week over what crazy shit I say. It must just be because he is an attention junkie. And every time he walks down there after a game, especially if they lose, Tor, it's like chumming the waters and the sharks. You've seen those videos, go right in and tear the carcass apart. He thrives in those moments, despite the fact that all it does is make everybody else's job with the organization more difficult.
It's faulty management. It is egotistical. I think if you are putting together a checklist of what good teams should do, what we need to improve on, Jerry's is what Jerry should do, and Jerry, how to get Jerry in the spotlight. It's not about the team. Jerry's about Jerry. Sure, he loves the team, but I think at some point those lines got crossed and it all became about Jerry and Jerry's eyes. And it's just been a total disaster. I never want to see my owner mixing it up with the media. I never want to, unless it's an emergency press conference. That's the only time. Or did we hire a new coach? Okay, give me 5 to 7 minutes on that, and then please shuffle back up to the suites. And I don't want to see you again. I hate it when Arthur Blank comes down to the sideline because I know he's going to fire the coach. He stands there like the Grim Reaper. That's what happens when you start seeing Arthur Blank.
I liked it when he hugged I liked it when he hugged the kicker last week. I did like when he come down and say, "It's not your fault, you silly goose," even though it was.
I love him so much. Arthur Blank. I'm so lucky to have an owner of an NFL franchise that I love, that I'll never get to meet and will never make an impact on me. But he means something to me for some reason.
You don't think the Titans have a great owner? You don't think I have the same exact circumstances that I work with? This is Todd Archer. Everybody was making note of this. Trailing 34-10 with 3:16 to play. The Cowboys now have trailed by at least 20 points in 6 straight home games, dating back to last year's playoffs, building on their NFL record. Tor, this was the best team at home last year. To fall off the sheer face of the drop-off that they have had playing at home. How do you get this bad this quick? One off season. It would be so difficult for you to go to last to first in one off season. To go from first to last feels like it's easier. But the Cowboys, they always win 10 games. They always win 11 games. They have CeeDee Lamb. They have Amari Cooper. They have Ezekiel Elliott. I looked at this and I was thinking about, because unfortunately the whole conversation has been about the Cowboys, as it always is. I heard a bunch of guys talking about, this doesn't mean anything. You know, the Texans still aren't as good as the Bills. They're still not as good as the Steelers or the Chiefs. Okay, maybe the Texans don't win a Super Bowl this year. But going in front of this Cowboys team in Eastern Texas, when you play inside of the same state border and you've got CJ Stroud and you've got Nico Collins and these young, exciting players, and fucking your running back that you picked up this offseason has 3 touchdowns, Tor, what they're doing is, you know what happened here in D.C.? For whatever reason, the Washington slipped and everybody else took their place. And I could see that happening. Stroud's not going anywhere. Like, the Texans are going to be a 10-win team for the next 10 years. You know, if they can just tread water. They got a good young head coach. They got exciting players. I love the idea of the Texans making inroads into Dallas, making fans, having people say, fuck this. How many people have you heard, Tor, say, I'm done rooting for Washington. I'm a Ravens fan now? Like, I probably heard it a couple dozen times over the past 10 years. I love that thought coming out of that game.
I've had friends in high school that even, like, not massive diehard football guys, but you know, if you're that person, you just navigate you navigate to the home team, and eventually they just switched off and they're Ravens fans and they go to Ravens games and they buy Lamar Jackson jerseys, and they're kind of trolls now. But I'm sitting here like, you didn't, you know,
it is what it is.
You didn't really have a ton of allegiance in the first place. So I'm not angry with you all, because look at the product that you were kind of forced to be a part of for the first 8 years of your life. Pretty miserable. And if you're not that invested and you just like having a good team to root for, yeah, I would much rather be a fan of the exciting, competent Houston Texans than this Cowboys team. And these Cowboys fans, this is a very eerie year, because they can't even get loud. They can't even try to fight battle with you on Twitter or in real life. They are as depressed of a fan base as I think I've ever seen them in my life, which I'm relishing. That's awesome. But it's a different tone to the year when they are not able to say a thing to you, because they have it worse than 3-4 teams in the NFL right now. Even teams with bad records might have a good young quarterback, and that's just how it's going. Other than that, they are so sorry. And where's the first place you improve them? They miss on the D tackle picks all the time. The defensive backfield is slow. The running backs, you need 2 of them. You need a wide receiver also. Zach Martin's probably might retire after this contract. You might need another offensive lineman. At least they can draft them well. Got to get a head coach too. It's a total mess.
They gave Dak $231 million in guaranteed money. I mean, that you have to start there. He can't elevate other players. Now, they let Amari Cooper go. They decided they didn't need Derrick Henry this offseason. Their general manager blows dead bear. I agree with you. But you gave this is what everyone that is sitting there with a Brock Purdy or a Tua Tagovailoa or a Trevor Lawrence question. You and I weren't the only ones, but we certainly were all over it this offseason saying, no, I don't give Trevor Lawrence as much money. Are you out of your fucking mind? And they did it. And because they did it, they're fucked. Now, Cowherd today said, look, the reason why Jerry has been successful in the past is taking big swings. Blow everybody out, keep Dak, but hire Dion and draft Shedeur. And who gives a fuck if he's upset? You know, if someone's crazy enough to want to give up, you know, a pick for that contract or whatever. I know that sounds crazy, but the way that it's been phrased lately, he says he doesn't want to play in the pros, but his son's going to graduate, right? His kids aren't going to be in Colorado anymore. Do we think Deion Sanders is going to be in Colorado for a decade? I certainly don't. I could see him being in Dallas for a decade.
If Florida State has another bad year, he'll probably go in and coach there.
Okay.
And I think that's probably what he wants to do most. As entertaining as much as I want to see it, as much as I want to see Dion in the NFL, just seeing his ascension over the last couple years, it still feels too knee-jerk to me. And I think coaching Dallas in this status right now is below him. I think doing something like that, as much as I want to see it and have it exciting and the ratings would be insane and everything would be, you know, fun, I think it would just be too much of a disaster. I think he's smart enough to think, I can't fix all of this. I don't want to deal with the Micah Parsons ego. If I was,
you don't give Micah Parsons the money, fucking ship him out. That's not a problem. Get rid of him. Dude, they need to burn it to the ground. And Tor, I get what you're saying, but nobody's more braggadocious than Dion. The Cowboys are the apex when it comes to being a media destination. That's important to him. And his son is the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys with the star on the side of his helmet. What has he been talking about this entire time? He's going to go where I want him to go. So all that matters is it important for Dion to have his son be the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys? And if the answer is yes, I'm guessing it's going to happen. You know what? When we started doing this show, one of the things I said to myself is I'm really happy Tor and I can talk about whatever we want. We don't have to worry about ratings. And what the fuck did we do? We started with the Jets and the Cowboys. We're like every other fucking hack sports talk radio show. Drives me fucking nuts. Andy and Petra Schoner, 1999. We do accept super chats on both types of sports, even though they're rare, like dinosaur fossils. Thank you so much. Gold Rush chicken sandwich is top 5. Rodgers is not worth a trade for a Gold Rush chicken sandwich. I don't think you're going to have to trade for him. I think they're going to say bye-bye, and then he's going to get his money, and then it's going to be like Russell Wilson where, okay, we'll negotiate something with the Jets where they take $15 million and we take whatever the rest of it is. I think if a team wanted him, like the Cleveland Browns, Tor, if you're a team that believes we got a good head coach and we're one quarterback away, I think cucked Aaron Rodgers, which is what he's going to be at the end of this season, still has some value in the NFL over I'm Aaron Rodgers coming out of Green Bay and everyone's going to want a piece of my ass and I've got hold all the cards. It's going to be a very different offseason for him, and he's physically going to be healthier.
I would hope so. I need him to start eating some meat, pal. It doesn't look like he is. It looks like he's withering away. It's like when you learn that your grandma is like eating once every day, like right at the end of the day. It's a real small meal. Like, hey, you kind of got to keep moving. Yeah. You got to get some proteins in. Come on. We all love you.
That's why I got an older dog, and what you do is you buy bone broth, and then you say, oh, you don't want to eat as much as you normally do? They eat the whole bowl. It's like, you ain't dying on my watch, bitch. You're going to have to figure out somebody else's watch to fucking go die on. Thank you, Andy and Petra. I greatly appreciate you. I mean, I hate to be so blunt, but I think you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I do.
Do you like Chase Daniel as an analyst?
He's been... You know what? I like him more because other analysts are degrading, are slipping, and they're losing their minds by the week. And like Orlovsky and Ryan Clark, and they keep on trying to make RC happen for him.
Bro, did you see the brooch he was wearing on football with his own initials on it?
Like doing too much,
bro. You can't wear a brooch for like breast cancer or stop soldier suicide. You got to wear your own. And I wish I would. He's wearing the suit that's too different, like the Joker suit, with a giant silver brooch with his own initials on it. he is fucking feeling himself right now, that Ryan Clark dude is. And Orlovsky's nuts. He's just a nutty dude, right?
Yeah, he's a nutty dude. And like he's just like, when I saw him talking about how good different races smell while he's trying to lead in a football segment, I'm like, dude, you got it. You don't know the time and place.
No, this is
That whole running out of the back of the end zone thing. It's not just football. Your awareness is bad.
You're a nutty
general. Dude. Yeah. So yeah, Chase Daniel's fine with me.
I bring him up just because I think that he speaks his mind. He had this tweet after the Ravens game. Lamar Jackson's season is unreal, but how can MVP voters not look at Lamar's 4 losses with the best offenses in football in every category? Josh Allen is about to go 9-2 with much less on offense. Of course, he ultimately did go 9-2. Most valuable player, not best player. There's a lot of football to play, Tor, and Lamar Jackson is unbelievable. So it wouldn't surprise me if he was the MVP at the end of the year. But you cannot overlook the fact that the Ravens lost to the Browns and the Lions just throttled the fucking life out of the Jacksonville Jaguars. And I bring that up only to say that excellent teams go out there and dog walk bad teams. And that is not what the Ravens have done for the most part this year. We go to the record against Mike Tomlin. Lamar Jackson versus teams not named the Pittsburgh Steelers, 64-19. Lamar Jackson versus the Steelers, 1-4. And people want to shit on the Steelers for how close their games are, Tor, and kicking field goals and all of this. But here's what I know. If it's a close game and you need to kick field goals and play defense, and you need one of your defensive players to come up with a big play, TJ Watt and the Pittsburgh Steelers should be 1 on your power ranking. Not 4, not 5. I saw them 13 on some asshole's fucking power ranking today. And you go ahead and do that, and you disrespect that win. But that was exact. Then the fucking penalties that the Ravens melted down with in this game, Tor, all the false starts and the fact that Derrick Henry fumbled, and the first time since 2022 they stripped Derrick Henry and picked up the ball. What did it remind you of? It reminded me of that game against the Kansas City Chiefs in their building in Baltimore in the AFC Championship game where Jim Jester embarrassed himself and his family. That's what it reminded me of, and it reminds you that the Ravens still have that club left in their bag, and when it comes to a monstrous game like that, they can go out there and shit down the side of their leg, and a team with less talent can win by a field goal.
Yeah, the problem with the MVP category this year is that on a crucial loss for Lamar Jackson, where the offense needed to put up more points against a good defense in an in-division game, huge rivalry, one of the best in the league, Josh Allen beats an undefeated Chiefs team on his own legs in a massive ballsy play and looks like an unstoppable superhero on the field. So it has changed. Not changed my mind, but it has pushed the gap between the two in the MVP race further. 9-2 is better than a 4-loss team. It just simply is. Right now, Josh Allen's playing out of his mind. And previously, we had seen years like this where Josh Allen starts hot, but then he starts turning the ball over like a maniac. And it's really tight, sweaty games that the Bills are in. Not this year. When they have that run game going, it is a true Super Bowl contender team, similarly to Baltimore, but Baltimore will self-implode even if their quarterback is playing decent, whereas the Bills only self-implode if Josh Allen throws like 4 or 5 picks in some crazy game. So the Steelers are an absolute beast also. If you have them outside of your top 10 power rankings, you just simply don't know ball.
Steelers are 8-2 now. They have a 1.5 league in the division. Russell Wilson 4-0 as a starter. Here's the line that I wanted you to react to, towards a guy that got drugged by many talented defensive linemen. TJ Watt with a sack, 2 quarterback hits, 2 tackles for loss. He now has 17 career sacks against the Ravens. That is 8.5 more than any other player in the league. Do you know who the player number 2 is? I bet you can guess it in one guess.
Oh, jeez. Wait.
Think about it. Use common sense. You'll get it.
Why am I?
I bet my life. Don't leave me to die.
I'm not trying to. I don't know.
I'll give you a hint. He tried to kill Mason Rudolph with a football helmet.
Miles Garrett.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Look at me. I died. I bet my life. It's all over for me. The Ravens scored a season low 16 points in Sunday at Pittsburgh. Going into that game tour, they led the league 31.8 points per game for 10 fucking straight weeks. So you can blame whatever you want. I think a majority of the penalties, a majority of the turnovers, all the problems that they had, that's the Steelers' defense and special teams putting that foot to them the way they have everybody this year. And the fact that with Wilson, I think with Justin Fields, they're still a playoff team, but Wilson can throw a moon ball twice a game, and that's going to be enough to beat most of these teams this year. So I don't know, man. I was just looking at that defense. Look at this one. Ravens came into the game as the third team in NFL history with at least 20 points per game and at least 375 yards in the first 10 games of the season. And the Steelers did that to them and held them to the 13 points. Yeah, man, I don't know who, if the fucking playoffs, they can figure out a way for the playoffs to run through whatever Heinz Field is now, it'll be very difficult for you to get over on that defense.
The egg continues to be on my face with the Russell Wilson stuff.
Everybody, man.
Surged past the expectations that I had for him. I mean, surged, and you're right. They would be a playoff team with Justin Fields, but they wouldn't be a playoff team in this manner. They would be like, okay, we squeaked in and we had more tie-breaking wins down the stretch because we're the Pittsburgh Steelers, and that's what we do. And we get in with like 7 losses. This is a different Steelers team. They have a legitimate offense. I can't believe that the destiny actually panned out. And Arthur Smith, where years ago it was he wanted Russell Wilson. He wanted him. He thought his offense could work with Russell Wilson. Now he's got him, and the offense works with Russell Wilson. Way to call your shot, big man. I'm proud of you. Happy for you. That's insane that he's been able to rejuvenate a quarterback that was relentlessly mocked and relentlessly lambasted for his play, and at times rightfully so. He looked like a completely different quarterback in Denver, and this is an impressive kickstart to the end of his career with Pittsburgh. You can feel it, and then to complement that with a defense full of maniac killers is just perfect for him.
Also, I mean, people want to criticize the Boswell Fest, but I think he kicked 3 50-plus yard field goal attempts. And Justin Tucker, who was your weapon, you know, the guy that you brought out to ice games time after time again, completely melts down. Well, championship teams don't have a kicker that completely melts down. Adam Vinatieri, go down the list of guys that have proven that. Steelers have won 8 of the last 9 versus the Ravens. That's daddy status. I'm going to put this chair in the corner of the bedroom and you're going to watch me bang your old lady status. I don't know what that means other than the fact that Baltimore don't want to see this team in the postseason. Baltimore wants nothing to do with Pittsburgh in the postseason because if they see them there, who's going to have the edge in a tight, running the ball, low-scoring field goal fest? You don't even need to ask the question. So I don't know, man. Sometimes I watch the Ravens play toward. I'm like, nobody can stop them. How could anyone stop a quarterback like this with a running back like this? That none of the fucking matchups make any sense, but their defense is not where it needs to be. And Pittsburgh is inevitable. I know we've used that term for a couple of different teams this year, but it really feels like Pittsburgh is inevitable. Where do you think they would stack up if they get the 3 seed? You know, if they're like one of those division winning teams, but you're still going to have to go on the road for the championship game. Like, can they, excuse me, would you pick them to go to Buffalo and win? Would you pick them to go to Kansas City and win a place like that?
I think they're probably just a true 3, which they'd be fantastic games, but I don't think I could pick them to win. I think they beat the field. I don't know. It's 2 teams in the AFC that could beat them, and unfortunately, those teams are still very good. And they beat them by a score. But that's just how I see it. They decimate everybody else. But I'm also not arrogant enough to say that if this defensive play continues, that I wouldn't be nervous about those games, having to play Pittsburgh, because crazy shit happens in the playoffs. And we know that you need that defense during those long stretches to make big time turnovers and big plays. And that is a team that has that defense, at least right now.
I have a nice little chef's kiss here. One of the things I like Mike Tomlin. I've always liked Mike Tomlin. The only thing I like more about this season is all the shithead Steelers fans that don't know how good they have it, that wanted to run him out of town on a rail. And you saw what the ownership did is they extended him in an offseason where that happens. This is him before the game about one particular matchup. I think most people probably saw this clip.
I hadn't thought a lot about it. He's not on a lot of their video, and so, at this stage of the week, I don't know that I've weighed what he might mean to the matchup. They got more significant pieces with larger roles that are occupying my attention at this part of the week.
That's a big fuck you to Deontay Johnson, of course, who was moved around a couple of times this season already. Deontay Johnson, since joining the Ravens tour, you want me to blow you away with some stats?
Oh, please.
4 targets, 1 catch, 6 yards. Yikes. Yikes.
Yeah.
Think about how much bigger an impact DeAndre Hopkins has already been in Kansas City than Deontay Johnson is at that stage in his career.
Yikes. Tomlin's always right. He's always right when he's saying something that seems like an actual statement of opinion. It ends up being fact, and that's he's. I don't know what you do to burn Tomlin, because if I was a head coach, George Pickens would have burned me 10 times already.
Oh, sure.
Maybe Tomlin likes having a psychopath on the field. He needs one every time.
But he knows when to get rid of him. He knows when, okay, Kenny Pickett, bye-bye.
Le'Veon Bell, time's up. I'm done. I'm done dealing with you.
Yeah. Antonio Brown, best wide receiver in the league at the time. No, thanks. We're good here. So he knows when the psychopath, when that humidifier needs to be emptied, which is really impressive. So you mentioned the Super Bowl odds. I pulled this. This is the odds currently as they sit. According to Fox News through week 11, Lions, no surprise, plus 320. We didn't even get to the Lions yet, who, just do what they do. Kansas City Chiefs still above the Buffalo Bills, plus 450. Bills at plus 650. Iggs, they're at 4 plus 700. Ravens somehow lose to the Steelers, and they double their Super Bowl odds, plus 900. There's Pittsburgh at plus 1,800. And then the Vikings, the Packers, and the neeners. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Rounded out. Appears that Vegas agrees with your assessment of the Pittsburgh Steelers championship potential there, Tor.
They should be higher than the Ravens. I think the best, if you're a betting man, I think the best value on the board is the Bills at 650. Right now, I think there's 3 true serious contenders if you're putting money on it. I don't know what the hell they're thinking about with Philly. They're not a serious organization.
I agree.
When the rubber meets the road, you're going to remember why you were trashing Nick Sirianni and why you had those thoughts about Jalen Hurts. And then they'll show it to you, but thank God they're giving Saquon the ball. They've helped make the football season exciting for that matter. But I think it's crazy to think that the Lions are the favorite, and the Lions might be the clear favorite.
Shouldn't be close right now. And Saquon, I hope now is getting MVP votes, certainly over Jalen Hurts. But I hope that especially if Philadelphia's going to fuck around and win that division. I think we know that now. But if they can figure out a way to be in the running for the 1 seed, if Detroit still got to play all those divisional teams, they could trip up. It's possible. And you can stay right around 2 losses, 3 losses. You could be in that conversation. Tor, I would feel more comfortable, I swear to God, rather than betting with those odds on Philadelphia, taking a flyer on the Chargers, taking a flyer even on the Denver Broncos. Like, I know that sounds nuts, but if you can play defense, if you can make plays, if you go out there and win games you're supposed to, upsets, I would rather take a flyer on one of those teams when we know, like you said, what the Eagles are going to manifest themselves. Despite all of Saquon Barkley's brilliance this year, I truly believe that. We've seen enough out of that head coach and that quarterback combination.
If they didn't have him surging right now, they would be listless in a boat with no paddle, and they would just be drowning. But now they have a guy that can truly ice a game. We saw it on Thursday night. They brought in that dude to run for 2 touchdowns and put a dagger in a team when they're trying to load the box. And it has been thrilling to watch him and his renaissance in the NFL. But top to bottom, Philly will crumble. And it'll be fantastic. And I am excited for the crumble. I like seeing the Philly fans upset and sad. It makes me happy. It's something I root for during the season because I don't have much to root for. But that is something I'm excited about. And I'm sorry, Nick Sirianni, you don't make friends well. You're
No.
not someone that people want to root for. You're the opposite of Dan Campbell. And if you wanted to go into the weirdo coach side of things, you're the opposite of Sean McVay. All the bad in those coaches manifested into one dude that shaves his head to make a statement in Philly.
Do you feel like Sirianni is like a crazy coked up version of Sean Payton, like that hasn't accomplished as much? Like that's what I think he thinks that he is. Which I don't know if that's a fair comparison, but it's the vibe I get. Rick Austin, 1111. Thank you, brother, for the super chat. We accept super chats on both types of sports. 4 sticks for Skunk Dick Ian Rappaport. Hi-oh! I hung up on that piece of shit twice. Thank you so much, Rick. I greatly appreciate you. Tore the last 2 drives for the Buffalo Bills in that game. We call those the championship rounds. You know what a championship round is in MMA?
Unfamiliar with the term.
So a normal MMA fight in the UFC is 3 rounds, right? 5 minutes. A championship is 4 round, 5 round. There are 2 extra rounds. So generally, if you're the challenger and you haven't been in a championship fight before, the championship rounds are tough because you can gas. Like you got to make sure that your cardio is where it needs to be, and the other guy's done it before, so he's got an edge. So the championship rounds, the Chiefs are really good at, right? They put long drives, and if they're within 2 or 3 points at the end of the game, they're gonna win. The Bills, in their final 2 drives of the game, 10 plays, 83 yards, 6 minutes elapsed, touchdown, 12 plays, 70 yards, 5 minutes, 36 seconds elapsed, and a touchdown, including that we're not kicking the field goal. We're going for it on 4th. And, oh, by the way, our tank of a quarterback just rushed for a touchdown to ice this son of a bitch. I know it's the regular season Super Bowl, and if you're a Chiefs fan, I wouldn't even be worried about it all that much, except for the way that we've seen Pat Mahomes has thrown 11 fucking interceptions this year. Yeah. Hopefully now we can talk about that. Like, the Bills have been here before. I don't know. Did that one feel differently to you? That one felt differently without Dalton Kincaid, without their Keon Coleman. Like, they did that without some of their best weapons.
It felt differently because I think the Bills learned their lesson, and it was, we're not giving the ball back to this asshole.
Exactly.
You're not going to get it back. I'm not getting burned again. The stove is hot. I refuse to make this same mistake again. And if I get skewered on the radio and we don't convert it, so be it. That's the life I'm going to live. I'm not going to let this guy have another miracle comeback drive and put him in the driver's seat. No, I'm going to take him out of the game. I'm going to let my all-star do all-star things. That's why it's I feel like it's different. I feel like Josh Allen, he had that I thought it was over when the Bills missed their first extra point. I said, that's the game. All right, everybody. That's how they do it. That's how the Chiefs have been doing it all year. They let another team beat themselves in a minuscule way, and they just capitalize. And the Bills didn't let it happen. They decided, we're going to keep on punching you in the mouth with James Cook and Josh Allen, and we're going to play Chiefs ball. When it comes down to the nitty gritty, we're not airing it out. The Chiefs haven't been airing it out. They didn't air it out last year.
No.
They ran the rock, and they converted 3rd downs, and they made the right play calls on critical 4th downs, and they played staunch defense, and they just chewed clock with Samaje Perine and Isaiah Pacheco. And the Bills said, that's the ball you want to play. That's the ball we're going to play. We're going to do it. It felt different. It felt like the closest the Bills have been to the Chiefs in a couple years.
Not only that, the game began and ended on interceptions by Pat Mahomes, if you think about it. And that's why Xavier Worthy's there. They make the trade for a wide receiver. At some point, Pacheco comes back. They've been able to run the football. But I said this earlier this week when I was talking about this game. How many times have we seen the Chiefs defense bail out the offense this year, right? And when it came down to it, when nobody scored this many points on them in how many weeks? I mean, you look at what the Buffalo Bills were able to do against that defense. It's the first time the Chiefs had allowed 28-plus points in a game since the Eagles in the Super Bowl. That's 30 straight games. They needed the offense to bail them out, and they fucking couldn't. And that to me is what feels like the difference here is like, okay, when they need to go get 30, they can go get 30. Andy Reid and Pat Mahomes are going to go get 30. Not this year. 11 interceptions in 10 games for that quarterback. Bills are 9-2, by the way, for the first time since 1992. They've been good these past few years under Sean McDermott. This is the first time they've been 9-2. So yeah, I think you're right. I think it does feel different for Buffalo right now.
And I am as shocked as anyone could be, as I had written off the Bills from actually contending for a Super Bowl this past year. I remember walking off an elevator with you saying, it's done. Their window's closed. And I'm like, yeah, I guess it's just going to be the Chiefs by a mile this year. And I'm pleasantly surprised. I like when the Bills are good. I appreciate that they given enough leeway for Sean McDermott. He's a crazy person, and I like that. The defense is stepping up. It's a good team, and I really think they can make some noise as long as they don't drop some goofy losses down the stretch and lose themselves. If they
to the Jets, who are they going to lose to?
I don't know. Hope nobody.
I pulled this audio for two reasons. What, you and I are both Amari Cooper stans, but he also in this clip sounds as depressed as you do. So I wanted to. So I wanted to pull it because I thought you would enjoy it.
In a long time.
All right, so listen to this first part. He was asked about how he feels after beating the Chiefs. All right, listen to this answer.
First time in a long time that I've actually felt joy,
I fucking was like, holy shit. Oh. And he's way more soft spoken than I thought he would be.
First time in a long time that I've actually felt joy, from winning this game, from just the way we played, from having so many guys on the team who are playmakers, and they come up and they show up when their number is called. Collectively as a group, it's just amazing. A lot of the guys here, it's just kind of a different place too. Buffalo compared to some of the other places I've been to. So a lot of the guys, it's a tight-knit group, I would say. A lot of the guys go out together. They hang around each other 24/7, and it truly shows up on the field. It truly does.
So it wasn't a tight-knit group in Dallas?
What about Oakland? What about Cleveland? Good for I couldn't be happier for Amari Cooper. That is just stellar. What the fuck is going on here? Why am I?
Don't worry, we're still doing an audio show. It's still an audio.
The Amari Cooper, infinitely rootable for. He's been on 3 garbage can destinations in his career, and now while he could still make an impact, and it's not okay. You got a season left. He can actually maybe win a Super Bowl or at least find joy in football again, which is all you could root for. I think I've gone longer than you though, Amari. I think I got you beat on the last time I felt pure joy in this sport. So I'm still looking for it, but I get hope seeing stories like that.
I wanted to talk about Burrow, but do you want to filibuster here?
It's over. It's over. I hope everyone enjoyed the run. It was a fun couple weeks.
What run? What are you talking about?
We beat Philly. Atlanta beat Philly. That was cool. They got one win against the Saints this year. But we saw the mettle of the team when Sean Payton knew. You could tell on the sidelines before the game. He knew, I'm going to beat the shit out of this team like I always have. These idiot losers picked a bad coach. Their defense is really soft and weak, and they're not going to touch my rookie quarterback, who's going to have 5 incompletions and 4 touchdowns to 4 different wide receivers, 3 of who I have never heard their names before, ever. I track this league hard. I follow it to a T. I've never heard of these dudes.
You haven't heard of Lil Jordan Humphrey?
Not even in college. Never.
What about Marvin
anywhere.
Mims Jr.? Have you heard of him?
Marvin Mims Jr. That was one guy maybe have
Nate
heard
Atkins?
of in passing. Who?
I failed his diet once.
That is an embarrassing loss. Raheem Morris is not a good coach. He's not. He was 4-7 for this team before, and you bring him back. If he's the defensive mind, right? We're bringing him because he was a good DC in Los Angeles. Cool. That's fine. We need some defense. Where's it been at? If it wasn't for Jesse Bates having the biggest hog in the 404, then the team would have a losing record. If it wasn't for some miracle wins from Kirk Cousins, Tampa Bay would have a 2-win lead in this division. And they're 3 games under 500. They're this Atlanta Falcons team did such a good job of tricking everybody into thinking they had a legitimate shot. They're going to lose to the Chargers next. Maybe they beat the Giants. Maybe they can just get enough wins to get to 9 wins, and that'll be 1 win better than last year. Great. I'm glad we have all these young offensive pieces. I'm glad we gave Bijan Robinson 12 touches in this game. It's a totally it's a huge embarrassment. Go ahead, go into the bye week, do whatever you want. John Abraham was on a post-game show. He said, yeah, typically bye weeks, you go and you get some rest and relaxation, and it's a little bit different. And then when asked about this year's bye week, he said, if I'm on the team right now, I'm canceling my plans and I'm watching film for a week straight. Yeah. That is what I'm doing. And that is the all-time Falcons sack leader giving you some advice, putting you onto some game. Take it. You're not good enough.
Turks and Caicos ain't going nowhere. It's going to be there at the end of the season.
They'll be there. Yeah. And if you know what, if you want to go now, you'll be there in January. You won't be partying.
Other side of that coin, you mentioned Bo Nix, 28 of 33, 307, 4 touchdowns to 4 different receivers. The Broncos are now 6-5. If I'm Jerry Jones, I'm looking at the Broncos eating that Russell Wilson money, giving Sean Payton $15 million a year, drafting Bo Nix too high. These are all risks that they took, and it's like I'm gonna have to do some of this if I want to get out of my cuck chair. I don't know why I keep bringing that up. I wanted to talk about Eberflus being a bag of shit, but just real quick, I'm such a big Joe Burrow mark. I saw this video. It's one of the saddest things I've ever seen. If you're not watching the video feed, you can go to YouTube and see it. It's Joe Burrow after the game's over, just being the saddest guy in the world on the football field. And I saw this stat. The Bengals, of course, 4-7. They got to bye. Guess who they play after that tour? It's the Pittsburgh Steelers. Joe Burrow has 3,028 passing yards this season, 27 touchdowns, and only 4 interceptions. And his team is 4-7. I've never wanted anything more, and they won't do it because they can't do it. But you talk about not serious franchises. The Cincinnati Bengals are not a serious franchise. They're going to lose T. Higgins. Maybe they're going to lose Jamar Chase. I don't know. They lost Joe Mixon, who might be the second best running back in the league. I really wish there was a way where we could get Joe Burrow just onto a healthy franchise, like a top 17 franchise in this league that would treat his prime more seriously. Look at this poor mopey fuck. When they come over and take his helmet, you just want to cry. I don't know. I feel like, like when those PETA protesters go into the Louvre and throw paint all over a Rembrandt. It's like, that's what I feel like we're looking here with Joe Burrow and his highlights and his chin down in his pads.
He's doing the Charlie Brown walk. Yeah, okay.
Look how distraught he is.
Jeez.
That's what it is. Yeah. You got a rock in his bag of candy. The Great Pumpkin did not come for him.
That is tough. He has had you know what? I'm still not writing the Bengals off. 7 losses for that team doesn't scare me. I think you know what? I think if they made the playoffs, I wouldn't want to play them because he has been on an absolute heater this year. I don't know what the option is. I don't know. Jamar Chase, for some reason, I don't mind him saying, I don't call the plays, man. I'm Jamar Chase. I make plays happen. Yeah. All right. That's what I do. We know Evan can make those kicks. That's what he's paid for. I'm Jamar Chase.
Yes.
All right.
Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase would be Randy Moss to the Vikings if he went someplace else. Jamar Chase is the best wide receiver in the league. I don't want to hear any other shit. So if all the quirky, weird shit that we've seen fucking wide receivers do in their careers, including this season with whatever the fuck is going on with DJ Moore in Chicago.
Yeah.
If the only thing that Jamar Chase is guilty of is saying, I want the ball, and he's pissed off when they lose and when they're turning in performances like this and coming out on the bad side of the standings. They're 4-7, by the way. The Ravens are 7-4. The Steelers are 8-2. It would have to be a wild card, and then you see the North putting 2 wild cards in. I don't think so.
Yeah, it would be very, very difficult. I just want to see more of this offense. It's very fun. I think that they found their running back for the next 3 years, and Chase Brown, he is a good back and good in the receiving game. I'm typically, I'm like, get over yourself, man. You're making millions. You're playing a sport that everyone loves. You're a universal hero. If you go to the pedestal or a post-game press conference and it feels like you're throwing somebody under the bus, I always feel like Ja'Marr Chase is vindicated for some reason. I stand with Ja'Marr Chase. I just will, because I know how good he is and that they are not treating the two, maybe at times, the two best offensive players in football when they're at their peaks seriously or with enough respect.
If you missed the announcement, we are now currently getting funding for our audio podcast. So if you have not subscribed yet, please go to iTunes or Spotify. Go ahead, subscribe, leave us a 5-star review. We would greatly appreciate it. Tor, I apologize to you for what your team is putting you through, your sports franchise, but I appreciate you being here, and I will see you later on this week, my friend.
Sounds good.
Sounds good, friendos. Always remember, when you're not watching both types of sports, you need to be going long. Real long.
Hey, what do you got?
Both types of sports.
Yeah, what's it do? Go long. Real long. Nice toss.
Both types of sports.